Hello and welcome to Willow Talk once again. Adam Peacock with Alyssa Healy. Heels, how are you?
Very well.
No Hads?
No Hads.
He's in, what do you reckon he's in? 2C, 1A?
1A, surely.
1A?
1A. Snoring his head off.
On his way to the IPL.
Yeah.
After a couple of Bloody Marys in the lounge.
Sounds about right.
Platinum Lounge?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's in that one, the chairman's one, where the secret door that you
don't
know
even
that
know
there's a lounge in there, but you can't get in there.
The one that all the politicians got in
Yes.
trouble for going in Australia. But shout out to Hads. He's no doubt downloaded the episode before he's hopped on his flight to the IPL and he's listening to us. So good luck, mate. It's yours to lose, as we said last week, correct?
Yes.
He's squad.
Yeah.
He's squad, especially now that Delhi have lost Harry Brook. We'll get into that in this episode. But all right, Mitch, does that mean he's one man down for golf? Or
one golf buddy down, but I feel like bringing in an international batter, probably replacing someone like Harry Brook, they're probably going to be a golfer, so add another one in.
Half a chance. So today, we written down by producer Joel, a Kiwi, we're going to brush over the Champions Trophy final. India, way too good for New Zealand, and look back at the tournament with some of our predictions, see what came true, see what didn't.
Yep.
Can you remember?
I remember mine, and I'm not sure I'm winning. I feel like I'm ahead of Hads in what I predicted, but my predictions are slightly off. But I think everyone predicted India to win. So
all you have to do is beat your opponent. That's all you had to do.
Well, he flew away, so we'll never know.
We're going to look at Steve Smith's one-day career as he announced his retirement last week. As mentioned on last week's episode, I redid the intro because after we down tools for the day here at Willow Talk Towers, Steve Smith decided to make his announcement that he's retiring. But you look back on it, did you see that vision with him and Virat Kohli at the end of the...
Yeah. Yep.
We should have realised.
Yeah.
Can't lip read though.
Yeah, there might have been a moment that we all probably could have picked up on, but surprise, surprise.
Yeah. We've got some Shield froth to get through as well. The SACAs.
Yeah.
They're going to host the final.
Yeah, good.
But where?
Adelaide Oval. We heard it from Ryan Harris himself, saying that the groundies are going to make it happen, so let's hope that comes to fruition.
You got pulled at AFL House because you're a number one ticket holder. Could you put in a good word for him as well? About
I actually didn't. I forgot. I actually was chatting to Andrew Dillon yesterday, funnily enough, and I forgot completely about that situation. I should have mentioned it. Yeah. But anyway.
Oh, hopefully, by the time you listen to this, it might have been resolved, but hopefully they do get to host it at Adelaide Oval.
That would be great. Technology
says that you can get it in and out. I don't know where the hell they're going to have it otherwise, probably Karen Rolton. It doesn't really befit an occasion of a Shield final. Though.
No. Well, and Rhino was very positive about it and saying that Damien Hoff thinks he could get it done. So I think if they're going to be able to do it, I mean, surely the government will step in at some point too and say, we want this to happen. So anyway, see how we go.
We've got Sundries as well. We want to hear from Hills about the ins and outs of the 100 draft, which you have nominated for. And we've got a philosophical bit of vision to play from a game on the weekend out in the burbs. Well, not really, I think it was country Victoria, I think it was. Someone DM'd me a catch, which was absolutely incredible. But the preamble was this man who took said catch, turned to the camera and was pontificating about life in general. Then he's taken an absolute screamer. So that's to come in Sundries. Now, before we get into the show, don't forget to fill out our latest survey and your chance to win a Grey Nick scoop and the bat and a Willow Talk trucker hat. We've got a few to give away as well. There's one bat, 11 hats to be won. All you got to do is head to the episode notes, click the survey link, fill it out, takes about 5 minutes, then enter the draw to win. We've had hundreds of responses, some very kind, some very frank. Might need to scale back the golf chat a bit. Fair enough?
Nah. Well, I've heard in response to it, there's a few that are saying too much golf chat, but there's a lot saying I like the sprinkling of golf chat. So
Okay. We might try play a straight Herbat today and keep it on cricket. Fill out the survey if you could. It really does help. Details in the episode notes. Get in before it closes on Sunday night. Now, remember to hit us up on social media if you want to get in touch with the show by searching Willow Talk Podcast on TikTok and Instagram and subscribe to the YouTube channel Listener Sport. So, we're going to start today with a bit more Napa Valley Cricket Club chat. This back and forth continues. Hills' reticence?
Yep.
What does that mean?
That's the word.
Yeah. I know I can read it, but is that reluctance to accept Napa Valley Tour captain?
Hang on, let me Google it.
Brainiacs here at Willow Talk, we are.
Too smart for us.
I'll read the message. Reserved. Okay, you're reserved. You're hanging off the idea of actually getting
Restraint,
involved.
yes.
We discussed her thought about meeting the team before accepting and decided that wasn't a good idea. Understand her hesitation, but having watched her great efforts leading the Aussie flogging of the Poms for the Ashes, think she'll make the transition to the auspicious NVCC tour captain position just fine. In terms of competing against the 100 for her services, we could pay her $100, which is almost the same. It is US dollars, which are worth a lot more than Aussie rupees. Word for word verbatim. Aussie rupees, which is not far off the track at the moment. Given Mitch was salty about being asked to carry the drinks, we've sent you guys the first batch of drinks he will have to carry. It's the Napa Valley Cricket Club Night Watchman Pale Ale. Enjoy.
So good.
Now, these are transcontinental cans. If you're listening, they're the super cans as well, not just the
It's a large
ones.
can of beer.
Yeah, this is 473 mils at 6%. Woohoo! Anybody could be anybody's after 3 of these. So that's the Night Watchman Pale Ale. They've travelled across the world.
Yeah, how good.
Bag's not opening the first one because it could be something that Oppenheimer comes up with. But yeah, thank you guys for sending those.
I'll pass it straight to Mitch and see how he feels.
You can take them and do the review. I had
Good
enough on the weekend. Tom said, "Hi guys, greetings from Rostock in Germany." Wow.
That's cool.
Rostock, home of Hansa Rostock Football Club. Didn't know they were into their cricket over there, but great to hear they're into their cricket. I'm an Aussie living here, working, playing volleyball in the Bundesliga. I listen to all the podcast episodes, get me through my day and catch up with my first love, cricket, volleyball being number 2. Not always in the right time zone to watch live, thus Willow Talk and Willow Talk Extra. Great way to keep up to date with scores and news. Want to give a shout out to my hometown of Ipswich in Queensland.
Yeah, the Switch.
Ipswich?
Yeah.
Oh, you being a Queenslander, of course.
family's from.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Ah, there you go. There you go. I have a lot of sport comes out of Ipswich.
Yeah. Used to.
Is it because it's the best thing to do in Ipswich to fill in your spare time?
Well, it used to be a big sporting hub. A lot of rugby league players came out of there, a couple of cricketers. But maybe keep them out of trouble. Play sport.
Exactly. I have 2 personal connections. It's to 2 men's test players. Craig McDermott went to primary school with my dad and played cricket with him. The other, Shane Watson, whose grandparents live up the road from mine and have remained friends since the 60s. My other connection to cricket relates to a certain co-host. My mum worked with one Helen Healy in the 90s as a nurse. After the birth of her son, Tom, my mum liked the name so much that she decided to name her own child the same name. Keep up the good fight. Shout out to Tom in Rostock in Germany, and you can relate to that.
Yeah.
Cricket's his first love. Volleyball, which he does as a profession, is his second, bit like you.
Yep.
Cricket's your second love. Golf's your first love.
Yes.
Blair.
And hockey.
And hockey. Hockey. Did you play a lot as a kid?
Yeah. I grew up playing, I played soccer, but then I played hockey. And that was, I loved it, but I was a little bit better at cricket.
I think you made the right choice.
Yeah, my life turned out pretty good.
I think you made the right. As good as the Hockeyroos are, they could have done with your help at the last Olympics.
Yeah.
A little bit more seniority in there, but
The cool thing was at the Com Games in Birmingham, we were all at the walkabout as you do once you finish your event, and all the cricketers were in the walkabout, Australia, New Zealand, and all the hockey players were there as well. And I had a conversation, I think it was with Mariah Williams at the time, and she said to me, like, didn't you play hockey or something? I'm like, yep, used to mark you in club hockey.
Really?
In club hockey in Sydney. And she's like, I don't remember you. And I was like, cool. Nice to know I was memorable. You used to run around me for fun. So, and anyway.
And therein
I digress.
was the confirmation that cricket was the right choice.
Yes. I had a good time though.
Hey, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
Blair said, absolute respect for the Midorian milk combo that I brought up in the last episode. That was my footy team's celebratory drinks, usually Sunday or Monday after a title. Love the pod legends. It curdles, though. You can't get carried away on them old green rats.
That sounds disgusting.
Dorian milks. Finally, thank you to everyone leaving reviews on Apple and Spotify, like this one from avid 14-year-old listener. I think Willow Talk is not only the best cricket podcast, but the best in the world. I wonder why it is not more popular. We're getting there. I think you guys do a great job. Thank you. I'm an opening batter, part-time off-spinner, and my coaches from school and Caloundra Cricket Club are Rod Davison and David SACA.
Oh, no.
If you're ever passing through the Sunshine Coast, pop in. Would love some batting tips. Hope you guys don't mind a cyclone.
I was going to say, maybe not at the moment. We might give it a few weeks.
Wickets will be doing a bit in that part of the world. I think that everyone's okay. Hopefully the floods, once they dissipate. hopefully those sporting facilities in that part of the world remain relatively unscathed, and they can finish their seasons up their cricket and get on with their winter sports as well. By the way, these drinks, for our 14-year-old listener, the Night Watchmans, they're not actually 6%, they're 0% alcohol. Drink responsibly, everyone. Jimbo and Lily said, as a dad to a 1-year-old girl who loves listening to the pod at brekkie time and when we're in the car, it's so awesome she can listen to a future Napa Valley Cricket Club life member. Seriously love the pod. The untold stories and occasional technical analysis are the best. More of this, please. Does Hads actually have hair? Feathers goes okay too. Hads does have hair.
He does, yeah.
Hair, from my point of view, to be jealous of.
Yeah.
Because it's thick and there's a rich tapestry of foliage up on the top of his head, and he wears hats all the time, so the hats haven't...
Yeah. I did note that maybe 2 weeks in a row he didn't wear a hat, and I think it was just to prove that point maybe to everybody out there. But
yeah. I mean, the hair is a little Beavis and Butthead like. Yeah. Like, it's very thick and goes right up. Shout out to Hads in 1A. Tegan said, great pod, love the insight and putting it in layman's terms. And Ben said, love the pod. Question for Heels, have you ever kept a Mitch when he's bowling at full pace?
I have actually. I've got a two-parter in that. So we grew up playing cricket together, obviously. Yeah. And we sort of, we separated in that, like around 16, and that's when Mitch started taking up bowling properly, and I went across, played women's cricket, and we went up, this is actually just before we started going out, to a charity day in Brisbane, and we were probably 19 at the time, and it was the first time I kept him since like under 15s, where he used to just bowl little dibbly dobblers. Anyway, I was standing way too close. The first ball hit me in the chest.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was like, after a few the night before too, that's the reason you go up and play this charity day. Yeah. And I was like, I'm just going to go back a little bit. But then 2 winters ago, we were training up in Brisbane and Mitch had to come up and bowl a little bit. So I said, I'll chuck the gloves on and catch him behind the stump, save like one of the coaches going out with the mitt. And it was a lot heavier than what it used to be when he was obviously a lot younger. But yeah,
how far back were you?
A fair way. Like I probably would have been, the 15? Wicket wasn't bouncing a lot, but I probably would have been like almost on our circle. Like it was cool. It was a really cool experience.
You kind of just put him in his place by just standing up to the stumps to a couple.
I should have, but I learnt that lesson when I tried to face him in the nets. It's like he can go up in pace a lot easier than what you think. So it was a little bit precarious, but I have, and it was really interestingly enough, like because we play with a 142 gram ball, slightly smaller than the men's ball. Just the way that the men's ball smacked in the hands a little bit harder, being a little bit heavier, was quite noticeable. But it was cool to kind of watch him do his thing from behind the stumps because it's been a long time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool story. Thank you for the question, Ben. Great question. Let's get into the Champions Trophy review. After a gap of 4,277 days, Indian cricket side has finally won an ICC one-day title. The men's, unfortunately for New Zealand, it's their 5th white ball final loss in a row. They posted 7 for 251. Strong start with the new ball. Through 10 overs, they were going on at 7 and over. But then spin came into the equation. India bowled 38 overs of spin and just tied New Zealand in knots through the middle part of the innings. And this is where I think this is your appreciation of one-day cricket really sings out, the tactical aspect of it. Yep. So Daryl Mitchell there, he knows he can clear the fence with most things he faces, but he couldn't take a risk. Yeah. So he had to eke out an innings. Yep. But 251 always felt like it was a bit short.
Yeah, it would, but you never know in a final. Runs on the board, everyone loves to win the toss and bat first in a final because you can put pressure on that way. That 250 might have felt like 280, but it also suits India in the sense of to get their spinners out there first up. They're going to bowl all 4 of them and bowl majority of spin, as you said. And they managed to play in those conditions really, really well right throughout the tournament, and they kind of nailed it down by the end of it. I don't care how many times they tell us that they played on a different wicket every time. It doesn't matter. You nail down those conditions really quickly, and their spinners were just too good for every opposition there in Dubai. And I thought, yes, it felt short, but 250 in a final you'd take, and you'd back yourselves to, if you get a couple of early wickets, to get the job done. But India too strong.
Yeah, Bracewell reignited some hope of something that would be defendable with 54 off 40, and that was when the pace came back into the equation. Mohammad Shami came back into the attack, but Bracewell was, played really, really well and middled a number of shots. But Jadeja, Yadav and Chakravarti, like, they just looked impossible to get away, especially with any element of risk about your shot. I mean, when you're facing balls that feel like they're just onto you real quick, and there's a little bit of movement off the pitch, but not much. Like, what can you do as a batter?
Well, their spin attack is relentless, and they attack the stumps quite a lot. Kuldeep Yadav's probably the only one that doesn't, but he spins the ball more than the other two. The other two just bowl really, really straight, and if it does even just the slightest bit off the wicket, it makes it really challenging for the batters. You'd rather it spin massive than spin just a little bit, because that inconsistency as a batter sucks. So, yeah, it's you're right, relentless. They attack the stumps and they just make you take the risk, and you've just got to work out if that risk is worthwhile or not. And more often than not, if you miss, they hit. So it just it becomes a real challenge in the middle of that one day innings.
Because even it takes away the modern shots, the reverse sweeps, and the variety that's come out of T20 cricket. It even nullifies that, which says a lot.
Well, a little bit, and I guess you can still play with a straight bat behind the wicket and sort of get your ramps and your paddles, but you're not really getting a heap of value for shots. They've got the field set for that as well, so they're making you try and heave ho over the leg side, which brings any little bit of movement off the wicket, creates, real doubt for the batters. So, impressive. I think they dominated, like I said, on that surface. And by the end of it, had just nailed it down pat, exactly the combinations they needed.
And India got off to a really quick start with the bat themselves, and Rohit Sharma, 76. No Matt Henry for New Zealand really stung them. They bowled 35 overs of spin themselves. Bracewell, 2 for 28, Santner, 2 for 46. Again, like you look at those figures, and that's old school 10 over bowling in one-day cricket. No one really got on top of them, but they just always just had enough. And KL Rahul has made mention of how he's the foil for Rohit Sharma out in the field. Like he was, I know Rachin Ravindra won the player of the tournament, and Rahul's numbers probably didn't allow him to win that, but geez, he was important all the way through.
The Iceman, he was sort of always thereabouts at the end of the games to finish it off. And we spoke about a couple of podcasts ago about how good he is in the field at sort of helping Rohit Sharma with whether it be tactics or bowling changes, whatever it might be, but super impressive right throughout, and India just too powerful, and that's in a chase like that to go, you know you need 250, and you know it's going to be a little bit more tricky in the middle, to know your opening batter is going to go out there and hit the new ball hard. Obviously New Zealand not having Matt Henry is a huge loss to take early wickets and get them on the back foot early, but that's why Rohit Sharma is so good at what he does. He goes out there, takes the new ball on, gets them off to a good start, and then sets up the game beautifully for that middle order who know how to chase and know how to win. Yeah,
Rachin Ravindra, as I mentioned, player of the tournament. But who was the ultimate lawnmower man? We threw that out. So stop what you're doing to go and watch this guy go about his business, either with the ball or the bat. I'll go Chakravarti.
Yep.
Because every time he came on to bowl, something happened.
Yep.
Either a batter tried to get on top of him and couldn't. He came back on to bowl in the final again. His second spell, took a wicket straight up. It might have been his third spell, I'm not sure, but took it straight up. So I'll go him in terms of eventful, but you got someone else?
Well, I said Glenn Phillips at the start, and so I'm going to stick with Glenn Phillips.
Yeah, again.
But you can't, it's hard to say he's the lawnmower man because he's doing it in the field, so it just means you got to watch the whole time and wait for something to happen. But
and do the lawns tomorrow.
He is quite an athlete and has continued to showcase that.
So a couple of his catches, and not having a go at his athleticism, there's a little hint of Mayo about it. A couple of them. This one, outstanding.
Well, I say the good catch there at short cover, but that catch the first time they played India of Virat Kohli at point, I've rewatched that a couple of times because I thought, good catch, like reactionary. But he's so close to the bat. He's so far off the circle there that is purely reactionary. And it's not like he's hitting them softly either, Virat Kohli. That was freakish. And to do it game after game and put New Zealand in positions to potentially win games off the back of his fielding, lawnmower man. Lawnmower
man. So India win. However, there is a however about this tournament. It's along the lines of an asterisk, but it's not, because that's a bit. That paints India's success in a not the light it should because of their skill when it came to executing what they had to. They only had to rock up where they were told to rock up, and they did, and they did it well. However, However, New Zealand, kilometres travelled during the tournament, 7,048. Sliding scale, Pakistan, South Africa over 3,000, Australia 2,500, Bangladesh just under 2,000 Ks, England and Afghanistan 1,000 Ks, India 0 Ks of travel. I don't know if that has anything to do with how the tournament panned out. It just felt like, I don't know, it doesn't devalue it. I'm trying to find the right word. It waters it down a little bit. Well, the success. Yeah. Oh, no, the tournament as a whole, not the success, the tournament as a whole.
Oh, 100% it does. And look, you look at the Indian side on paper, at that 15 they had, the guys that were sitting on the bench are still making a lot of sides around the world. They had the strongest squad there. And they were very good in those conditions and continued to play that way. But there'll always be a sense of an argument about fairness, about the competition, which is a bit of a shame. And I feel for New Zealand a little bit in that regard, that they had to fly back and forth quite a bit. And yes, it's only a 5-hour flight, but that still takes a lot out of you. It takes away from recovery. It takes away from potential training.
There's better things to be doing than sitting in an airport.
Correct. And you think about it's not just a 5-hour flight. It's, the travel to the airport, the waiting around at the airport, then you got to wait at the other end. You got to get in a bus. There's always a lot. It takes away the whole day, right? So, yeah, it's a shame that the tournament will be remembered for that. I think obviously everyone's going to remember India winning it, don't get me wrong, but there's always going to be some sort of asterisk about it, like using the golf term when the live players weren't available anymore. It's like there's an asterisk, but yeah, if and when the tournament goes ahead again, well, it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds.
I've got a fair idea that it will in 2029 because I've had a look where the host is. The host is India. So if it's down to be played in India in 2029, it happens. And this is to the bigger picture about cricket. And I don't know how much you can say because you're actually involved and you're playing and you play the WPL. You want to get that back there and Mitch is playing as well. But every administrator would wake up around the world thanking the Lord, whatever that Lord they pray to, if they do, that there's an India in cricket.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, it's the revenue sugar daddy of the entire game. That's how it works. And I don't know where the actual line is where the ICC end up saying, well, okay, have a thing like we had at last year's T20 World Cup. We'll do the draw so that no matter where you finish in the pool, you're definitely playing here for Indian TV. I get it, but then again, it's like if you're the other 7 teams, you're like, this is an international competition.
Yeah.
Feels like a club competition put on for Indian television sometimes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And
which it is.
Yes, it is. And then we know the reasons why as players as to why they are done the way they are, and it's because that's where the audience is. And we're okay with that. That's fine. But it'll be interesting in 2029 them playing at home because more often than not, home tournaments are the worst because the home team is paraded around the country. They've got to travel more. You play in every destination. People want you more because you're at home. So it might be on the flip side for them there going home. The pressure, the expectation of them winning at home will be high, but they're going to have to travel around the country a lot more. So it could be really interesting. But on that one, at the T20 World Cup we had in Australia in 2020, the same thing happened. We were always going to be the second semi-final in Sydney because of India. What was the
first semi-final?
So the first semi-final was India-England at the SCG. It was a double header. That because we were meant to be the first game, but because the Indians got through and finished top or whatever it was, they had the first semi. That game got washed out. And we got on 1 hours by the barest of margins and made it through the final. Whereas if we had still been the first semi, our game was washed out and we wouldn't have gone through. South Africa would have played in the final. So it can work to your advantage having it set out that way. But it's all part of the game and we're fully aware of it, like I said, as players. And we kind of got to work around that. But it'll be interesting to see how they go at home.
Where's the Champions Trophy sit in the grand scheme of priorities for cricket? Out of this event and looking ahead to India 2029 after they bought it back, the ICC.
Yeah, well, it's interesting and it'd be interesting to see how the players prioritise it as well. I mean, you look at the way that obviously there were some injuries for the Australians, but people missing out. It'd be interesting to see if other teams not take that approach, but, are missing players for a tournament like that. World Cup seemed to be really important. The World Test Championship seemed to be really important for some nations. I don't know where it fits. It's an odd one, but I mean, we were just talking off air before about the relevance of it, and initially it started out as an opportunity to take cricket to nations that, you know, it wasn't the most popular sport in, and yet in 2029 we're hosting it in India. So it's kind of gone away from that, and where that fits in alongside World Cups, I'm not sure. But, you know, it is the best 8 teams going head-to-head, which should be something that everyone wants to watch.
And look, again, having an ICC event means that the ICC gets more revenue, which is distributed. And I know there was a half Barney last year about how they distribute the money that goes into the ICC pot. But this would benefit cricket around the world. Yep. And I can only assume the ICC have got those programs in place around the world to help with development programs and developing nations. So in the grand scheme behind what we see on the TV, it is happening. But I wonder what it looks like in 2029 when all these players around the world, if it hasn't happened by then, it's a bit of a head scratcher that players are franchise players.
Yeah.
Like you're tied to a IPL hub and you're playing. I think by then you might have some kind of investment from that part of the world in the Big Bash, for instance.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see.
Well, it's interesting
like.
to see if it stays the 50 over format. I mean, that's traditionally what it's always been, but will it stay that way? I'm not sure.
You'll be the front of the queue petitioning for it to to given how much
I love
it.
one-day cricket, but I was just thinking, like, if we're using it to grow the game, then how do we use it? How can we use it better? And I'm like, could you get some of the female teams involved? But that gets tricky in an ODI format. That doesn't work. But if it ended up being a T20 format, then you could 100% bring those back together, because the World Cups are now split. But could you then have a joint tournament? And that's really growing the game wherever it is being played.
What, and have for Australia, for instance, your results and the men's results get pulled into one, and whoever wins the Champions Trophy.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about that. I just thought a male and a female winner, but if you could combine, that would be fascinating. Well, that's one way to continue to grow the female program, is if the pressure's on, let's say, Pakistan, they're like, we need the girls to be better. We're going to invest more in that program because we need them to turn up to the Champions Trophy and win. So there you go.
I can imagine that.
We've just sold world cricket.
Yeah, you and the boundary, and Mitch needs to take 2 wickets in his last over for Australia to win the Champions Trophy joint, and he doesn't, and you just give him an absolute bake as he walks off.
Divorce. Yeah. Just sign the papers.
Or reverse. You play a stupid shot to get out, and he's doing exactly the same on the boundary to... No, you wouldn't do that.
What a cool opportunity. We've just created something new, and we're going to get a whole heap of hate for it, but hey... Solving the world's problems.
Solving the world's problems. Or maybe creating one. I don't know. I think the latter.
Yes.
Maybe. Last one on the Champions Trophy, what we've just seen. So Steve Smith, retirement. Kohli, Sharma. Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma. They go on their own terms.
Yes.
They do not get dropped. No. They announce their retirement like Steve Smith did from the ODI. Can you imagine they eke out another one? There's a T20 World Cup in 2026. I mean, India, you reckon they got depth in the one-day team? What about the T20 team?
Well, Rohit did finish his press conference by saying, I'm not retiring from this format, so stop writing articles suggesting that and want to stop the rumours here and now. It's sometimes a good sign that maybe you are, but little does he know. But, yeah, I can see them keep going. Like you said, I don't think they're under any pressure to retire, even though politicians come out and call them fat or whatever they did. I think that they're well and truly within their own right to say we've had enough. But I feel like if they're still playing good cricket and contributing, then they can still be in that 2026 one for sure.
Absolutely. As mentioned last week, briefly, we'll delve into it now. Steve Smith retired from the one-day cricket after playing 170 matches across 15 years. Highest score 164 against the Kiwis in 2016. Highest run scorer for Australia in the 2015 World Cup. 1200s, 5,800 runs. Favourite Steve Smith moment from one day? It's a hard one because he didn't play he played the odd spectacular innings, but it was almost like his highlight was his absolute reliability.
Yeah. Especially
if things had gone wrong quickly at the top of the order.
I was thinking my highlight was that hanger he took at Gully at the SCG.
Yeah.
That was a screamer.
Glenn Phillips.
Yeah, that was an absolute hanger. But no, you're right, reliability. But he's just good. And like I keep preaching about the one-day format, you got to have gears, and I think it's a real showcase of skill. And we've seen it in his test game forever. But then to bring it into a shorter format and do it quicker, his adaptability in that regard, I think, was was amazing. And yeah, it's a shame. We spoke about it last week about, will we see him captain again? Well, we're not going to see him captain an ODI team again, which is such a shame because tactically he's amazing. So yeah, it's a loss for our game, but obviously he's got some things on his radar that he wants to be a part of, and maybe one day cricket was getting in the way.
They will miss his tactical nous in a one day game, correct? Out
100%.
there with field placings and
I think probably him playing alongside the likes of Alex Carey, Josh Inglis, those guys coming through that will 100% help. If it is Pat that's doing the ODI captaincy, these guys would have learnt from Steve Smith over the years and kind of will be able to help in that regard. But yeah, him standing at slip, running the show, we're going to miss that.
Absolutely. Ricky Ponting, by the way, is the most capped Australian player. He played 371 day internationals.
Yeah, it's ridiculous when you think about it now.
Over a year of his life was spent in a canary yellow.
Yep.
Australian goal, my friend. Glenn Maxwell's 149, Mitch Stark 127, Adam Zampa 111. So hard to imagine will an Australian never play 200 one days.
No. There's not enough bilateral ODI cricket being played that will ever happen again. T20s maybe. That's still hard to fathom bilaterally, but yeah, it's rare air. Think about how much one-day cricket was, or how popular it was back when Ricky Ponting was playing, and it's sort of fallen off the radar a little bit. So
that is the Australian side of things, and the Champions Trophy put a little bow on all of that. And just on the Australian men's side, their schedule, just to reiterate, World Test Championship final starting June 11, Lords, then a 3-test series against the West Indies, June 26 to July 17, 5 T20s in the West Indies. At the end of July, one-day series against South Africa in August in Northern Australia, dates and times TBC, and then the Ashes in November. So that's the schedule. It's a good schedule.
Wait.
It's a good schedule. Drinks break, back in a moment with a bit of Shield froth. And how does a player nominate for the 100 or a tournament as such? Back soon. We're back with a bit of Sheffield Shield froth, as we like to call it here at Willow Talk, and we had another round of games which has set up an intriguing last round. Well, not for South Australia. They're going to host.
Yay.
Incredible. Great result. And not too many people in Australian cricket would be disappointed that this has happened to Ryan Harris in his first cricket coaching. Well,
to win the one-day title, now be hosting the Sheffield Shield final, looking to go the double. Yeah, you're right. Rhino's much loved right around the country, so there's heaps of people. Mind you, I think most people, they're kind of, the SACAs are like everyone's second team, right? So I think there's a lot of happy people around there, but it'll be interesting to see how this last week unfolds and who they're playing against.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things that can happen. So wrapping up what happened in the last week or so, South Australia defeated Victoria, chasing down 300 with 4 wickets in hand. It got a bit tight there, and this is pretty good Victorian attack led by Scott Boland. Todd Murphy was playing and a few others in there. Jake Lehman ended at 3 for 54 and he was there at the end. 104 not out. His 12th first-class century. He'll be in the side for South Australia 30 years since his dad won South Australia's last Shield title.
Yeah, so...
serendipitous.
Put your money on it,
yeah.
Surely. I can't. I'm not allowed to.
Not allowed to. Either am I. I've got
$1 odds you would have thought after reading that.
But do you see how he did it as well? It was like late cut. Yeah. The Lehman backyard, that behind, they must have had an open space there just to say, son, if you're going to make it in the cricketing world, this is where you got to put it.
Well, I find that funny that, players grow up like looking like the parents, let's say, or playing like the parents. Like I've watched Hads throw at Zach in the nets, right? Zach is mini Hads in the nets. So I'm like, and how often does that happen? Because you go out and
chirp is there as well.
Yeah, well, all Hads does is throw short at him too because he's only little. Got to get him ready. But it's funny because you grow up watching, your mum or your dad play whatever sport it is and you end up not mimicking them, but that just seems to be how it unfolds.
Well, you've heard the old one, product of your environment.
Correct. And Jake is very much Darren's son and his wagon wheel suggests that.
It was a great innings just when they needed it. Liam Scott as well, one-day player of the year, took 4 wickets in the second innings and 83 in the run chase as well. SACAs have got a real player on the rise. They're developing players, developing a leader in Nathan McSweeney, who, as Ryan Harris said last week, has come back after his up and down summer and just got on with it.
Yeah.
No kicking stones.
New South Wales will be probably looking at their list and going, some of these guys, I think it's great that they've gone elsewhere and getting opportunity first and foremost. But New South Wales will be going, could we have...
Like a Nathan McAndrew, for instance.
Yeah, a Liam Scott. Henry Thornton. You look at Lockie Hearn going really well for Queensland. He wasn't even on a list, went up there on his own back and is now playing really well for Queensland. So New South Wales probably going... Did we miss a beat here?
So just on the South Australia hosting the Shield final, as we sit here now, the update is it could get moved slightly earlier to be sandwiched in between 2 AFL games with a wicket to be dropped in. And it'd be like the 2015 World Cup at Eden Park. So it's wicket and lushness.
Yep.
So that ball's going to stay nice and shiny.
I hope having to do that doesn't diminish the cricket and what the Shield season has been like. I hope the surface is still amazing, and I'm sure it will be, and they've promised that it will be.
What do you mean the Shield season's been like? There's been 2-day games left, right and centre.
But how close have they all been?
They have been good
one of
games.
the closest seasons yet. So I hope the final isn't, a bit of a shambles, but I'm sure it won't be, and I'm sure they're doing everything possible to make sure that everything's going to be schmick. But to squeeze it in between 2 AFL games, a little bit daunting, I would have thought.
Yeah. I wonder what they do with the outfield, like in terms of...
It'll be lush. You'll be running hard. Yep.
Full value for your shots.
Yeah.
Not really. Queensland defeated Tasmania by 9 wickets to jump up to second for now, and they are 1.41 points ahead of New South Wales in third position. It is jam behind South Australia. Uzi Khawaja, class above, century, 127. Looks like he's well entrenched to not only open at the World Test Championship in West Indies, but Ashes as well. He's going nowhere, it feels like. Michael Neser, 6 for 37, Mr. Misfortune.
Yep.
You know those Mr. Men books?
Yep.
Mr. Misfortune is a picture of Michael Neser.
He's got a little beard and it's Michael
Neser. Yeah, it's Michael Neser, because every time there's a position opened up, Mr. Misfortune gets struck down. And then when there's nothing available, he pops up with performances like this.
Yeah, he's going to be that guy that everyone speaks about. We always speak about that generation before, the unlucky guys that never played for Australia, and obviously he's played for Australia. He's got a baggy green, but one of those guys that grew up in the wrong generation perhaps. But Lance Morris also doing really well for WA. So you look at the guys coming through, and if some of the fast bowlers do go down, do they go for youth or do they pick someone that they know that they can trust in a sense?
WA and New South Wales drew at the WACA. Hilton Cartwright's unbeaten 171 set up a tempting chase of 282 from 55 overs, but New South Wales lost some wickets at inopportune times. Nick Madison gone in the first over. Sam Constas dug in for 50 before he danced down the wicket to Corey Rocchiccioli and probably regretted it because he wasn't trying to play an attacking shot. He was just trying to nudge one. And Corey, just beautiful bit of drift away with the doctor, I think it was, from that end. And that was the end of him. Matt Gilkes got them to safety with 53. And Ollie Davies, pretty important innings for Ollie as well, because we know him as an attacking player, but 11 not off 54. Just had to see out the game.
Good for him to show that restraint.
And did. Yeah, restraint. Is that the word we're looking for? Restraint, yes.
Or maturity.
Yeah, maturity. Exactly. So holding on for a draw, does it feel like you got a bit of a buzz about you, even though now it means that their own destiny is actually out of their hands for New South Wales to make the final?
Yeah, it would have been an interesting discussion in the change room, and I'd be, curious to dive into that this week when I go into training. I might ask a few questions as to, do you risk losing but knowing that you could jump up into first place into second place if you win? I wonder if that had to come up in conversation, or they just decided, no, we're going to need to play it safe here. We can't afford to lose because that will put us out of the race. So interesting, but yeah, it all comes down to this week, and I think some of these contests are going to be a little bit of fun to watch. But I did pick Victoria to play South Australia in the finals and that's not looking great at the moment. So I'll have to go with my second pick, New South Wales.
Fair enough. Yep. Fair enough. Yeah, by the way, New South Wales got to 4 for 130 off those 55 overs. So they were well short. And as soon as they lost Nick Maddo in the first over, that's when the anchor went down, it felt like. So that's how it all panned out. So, Queensland just ahead of New South Wales, who are just ahead of WA, who are just ahead of Victoria. Tasmania need a miracle. But this week, the final round, South Australia, Queensland in Adelaide, WA, Victoria in WA, and Tassie, New South Wales at Bellerive. So a lot has to happen.
Yep.
So basically, Queensland can take care of it by beating South Australia. But does South Australia want that to happen? Because that means they play in the final. And does that mean momentum's with Queensland going into the final?
They wouldn't
They've
already locked it in. I don't think they care.
Yeah, go and can on like mongrels the night before the game. Yeah,
the main team might have a break for the week.
Play the second 11.
The second 11, why not?
Ooh, mind games. Ryan Harris wouldn't do that, would he?
No, he wouldn't, but I mean...
his home state?
You could. They're well within their right to.
They are. New South Wales could jump in with a Tasmanian success and a South Australia-Queensland draw, for instance. WA and Vic either can make it, but I'm going to go cross-eyed trying to explain it all. So
it's wild to me that that 10 games in the Shield and you could get to the final winning 4 of them. That's wild to me.
That is.
Surely you got to win more than half. Yeah, but that's how close the competition's been, so it's good.
But it's
been exciting.
What has there been? How many draws? There's been 7 draws.
Yeah.
So there you go. Sundries, ins and outs of the 100 draft have come out. In terms of who's nominated for the draft, I should say, for the 100. So it's March 12.
Yep.
The actual draft takes place over there. What time? Have you looked what time it's happening?
Well, I'm guessing it's very early
Maybe
morning.
100 o'clock or something, so you're not going to stay up or get up?
No, I'll just find out in the morning if I'm going or not.
Wouldn't that be a nice way to wake up and go, oh, cool.
Yeah.
They've bid this for me and I'm going.
Yeah, well, not bid. They've just decided that they want me in the team.
So it's no bidding. Okay,
no,
so
it's a draft.
Let you know, A. Healy is in the draft at the price band of 102,000 Aussie. That's a lot of Willow Talks. £50,000.
That's at least a year of Willow Talk.
Exactly.
And the rest.
Well, it depends if the Napa Valley Cricket Club decide to sponsor us and put out we do a collab with their Vino 2025 vintage. So you're at that price band. So you nominate. So what, you go into a portal and you say, I want to be that much.
Quite literally, yeah. You go in, you fill out your information, who you play for, where you come from, and then you set your reserve price. So interestingly, especially in the women's side, a lot of players, including I noticed a lot of New Zealand players, have gone in quite low. There's lots of spots down sort of the bottom tiers. That's not, a great way to put it, but down in the bottom tier contracts, there's quite a few extra spots. So people are just looking for some cricket and want to go across and do that. Funnily enough, they brought in the rule of signing players directly like we had in the WBBL for a bit. So a lot of the top bands are actually taken by some of the best players in the world, as you'd expect. So the actual draft at the top won't be very long, but it'll be more so the domestic and the international players through the middle. Did
you go in for that, or you only made a late decision that you might want to be involved? This is how it works. Sometimes you go, actually, on second thought, I want to do this.
Yeah, I'd been tossing it up and whether or not I'd be fit and right by then, which I'm being assured that I will be. I feel like I've hardly played any cricket in the last 12 months, so I just want to go play some cricket. The one time that I was a part of it, I really enjoyed it. I had a great time for the Superchargers. That's locked down now by the 3 young Aussies that will be playing for Australia for the next 15 years together. But I had a great experience. It's a great competition, the way that it's all run. So why not go over there, get some cricket, hopefully, instead of running around the field in Sydney trying to get fit. I'm over there playing some cricket instead.
Yeah, Northern Superchargers, Annabelle Sutherland, Phoebe Litchfield and Georgia Wareham. I get your point, what you say right there.
Not shifting that. I broke my thumb in Ireland two summers ago, I think, and I couldn't go. They ruled me out of the 100 and Phoebe took my spot. I'm not getting it back off Phoebe at any point.
So is there any pre-work you can do, like making some calls to say, hey, by the way, you noticed my name there and are you interested?
I think definitely that's the way that some of the direct signings have gone. I mean, Megan Shute signed with Birmingham, Amelia Kerr signed with Manchester. So there's obviously some workings there. They can obviously approach the players or their management themselves. for me, it was a really last minute decision to. I think I registered the final day of registration. So, but it takes a little bit of planning, and obviously the retentions are in there as well. Some of the teams have retained players or shifted them. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. But like I said, it's such an amazing competition, and all the players who go over there really enjoy it.
So, but in the lead up to this, in the next couple of days, can you work the phones to say, I'm super keen to come to you because you can see a gap in a certain roster potential, or you just let it happen?
I'm going to let it happen. I don't think it's worth the phone call, to be honest, because like I said, it's more just about the opportunity for me to go and play. But I mean, if you were really into it, I'm sure that there's people ringing around to see who's going where, because everyone wants to know. First draft pick. You got 2 keepers towards the top of the list, and there's not many sides that need a keeper. So it'll be interesting to watch it unfold, but I won't be on the phone. That's for sure. If I go, great. If not, that's fine too.
You'll be here doing Willow Talk.
Getting the plus figures.
So there's a stack of Aussie men they've put their name down as well. At the top bracket, £120,000. Sean Abbott, Nathan Ellis, Josh English, Glenn Maxwell, David Warner, Adam Zampa, and then at a sliding scale, like Jake Fraser McGurk for £78,000. What's the go? And I noticed, was it Heather Knight came out and gave organisers a bit of a whack because they've adjusted the price bands in the draft.
Yeah.
But there's a disproportionate raise for the men to the women. So I don't think anyone was sitting here saying, or maybe you might sit here and say, it should be like for like in terms of, but it was more about the percentage rise, the price ranges that you could nominate for in the draft.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, so the salary, salary cap, whatever you want to call it in cricket, it got raised. So it went up 60% in the men's competition, and it went up 30% in the women's competition. So there's been a little bit of chat over there about why that took place. I know Heather Knight came out and had some views on it. I think from my perspective looking in, I think that it was a ploy to try and get some of the best men's players in the world across to play the 100. We're already seeing the best players in the world in the women's game playing the 100. Yep. So you're already enticing them. And I think the BBL has had the same issue over here the last few years. How do we attract the best players to sort of, market clubs around?
Yeah.
So I is it fair? No. Does it make sense? A little bit. In my perspective.
Have you got to sit on the fence a little bit? Yes, because you're still in the draft.
Well, putting my cricket cap on, I see it and I go, that makes sense to me. I understand that. And you look at the calibre of players that have gone in for that top bracket, especially the Aussie players, they are world class. They're names that you can market clubs around, so or franchises around. So yeah, it's an interesting discussion, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out when the competition actually starts. On
the list of price bands we've got here, there's one Mitch Owen who's on the 4th level.
Yeah.
Surely he goes to someone at £52,000.
Yep, he'd be highly attractive, I'd say. Yep.
Given his last few months. Elsewhere, Harry Brook has pulled out of the IPL for the second year running, as mentioned at the top. He was going to be going to the Delhi Capitals. Now he's not. So Mitch Stark will wait to hear who his replacement will be. In the meantime, Harry released a statement saying, with the guidance of the people I trust, I've taken time to seriously consider this decision. It's a really important time for England cricket. I want to fully commit to preparing for the upcoming series against India this summer, then the Ashes later in the year. In order to do this, I need time to recharge after the busiest period of my career to date, etc., etc. I remain hugely grateful for the opportunities I've been given and the support I receive. Unfortunately, though, they've brought in some pretty stringent rules, haven't they, the IPL, about if you say yes, that means yes. And if you change your mind, see you later, pal.
Yeah, he's been honest, which is great, but then he's cost himself a little bit by doing that, because I think it's potentially a 2-year ban from playing in the IPL leagues. But I mean, I kind of get it as well. You put your name in for the IPL. People buy you for your services, and then to turn around and say, I don't want to come anymore, would be quite frustrating in teams. Or we sit here with Hads every week who's looking at the ins and outs of his team and how they're going to work it, and they've probably built a lineup around Harry Brook to an extent, or slotting him into a cool lineup. So to then go and have to replace him would be frustrating. But I also understand it as a player. Like, sometimes you got to make some sacrifices, and he's done that. Does that scream? He might get a little bit more responsibility for England. I'm not sure after that discussion we had last week. But, this is where the whole franchise international debate will continue to rage, is that players want to be a part of the franchise because it pays them well, but then all of a sudden the international game becomes a priority. So how do you balance that?
How do you balance that?
Yep.
Don't know. WPL, Georgia Volleyball.
Georgia Volleyball, 99 not.
Yep. Would have been the first century in the tournament.
Yep.
I think there was a run out affected by Elise Perry.
Yeah.
To make sure it remained 99 not. Does that sound like Elise Perry behaviour?
No, but yes. No. She would have been doing the team thing and got the run out done and then apologised to Volley straight after. That's what happened. Yep.
And how would Georgia have accepted?
She would care. She'd be fine. She's the most unflappable kid. And I was talking to actually John Lewis, the coach, just checking in to see how the team was going. There's still a little bit of UP worries in my heart. And I said, you got to get Volley in there somehow. Like, it was going to be at the expense of, one of the Aussies. But I said, you got to get her in there. She's a good player. Made a duck first game and then came out, made 99 not. But unbelievable cricketer, one to watch for the future.
So that reaches its definitive point this week, doesn't it? So Delhi Capitals on top, Gujarat second, Mumbai third at the moment, the Warriors, and then RCB. Meg Lanning, 92. Aussies dominating.
Decent.
The WPL.
Aussies going well. Gujarat, interestingly, sitting at second. It's a pretty good effort from them. They haven't gone traditionally that well the last 2 seasons. So for Ash Gardner to be leading that side, going really well. The Aussies full there, but RCB after winning last year are going to finish at the bottom. Interesting.
Shane Watson, far too good for the Masters League. Back-to-back centuries, third for the tournament. Ben Dunk also hit a ton. And Cal Ferguson dismissed for 85. Australia third with India and Sri Lanka on top. England are last. Now, this moment, this got sent to me directly on Instagram, and I'll just pull it up here. It's probably we'll splice it in terms of the audio and the vision and everything. But it's from Swan Valley Cricket Club, where a top young fella, Jack Kavanagh, was contemplating life at 6 for 266 after his side were bowled out for 89. So it was just having life taken out of them. I'm just going to play it right here through the microphone.
Tell myself I love the game, but I think I'm just lying to myself.
So that's him on the camera, which is set up to show the game. Next ball. An incredible grab. Glenn Phillips-like.
I love cricket.
In the out of there.
I love it.
From Jack. So the full story, Swan Valley got rolled for 89. Jack's out there. And how many times when things aren't going your way are you standing there going, why have I made this choice in life?
Why am I here?
How many times have you done it?
A lot.
Yeah.
And I do it for a living. But like on a Saturday afternoon in the country, they're out there toiling away in the heat.
Yeah.
And there he is going, why am I here? Could be doing something else with my life. And then you take a screamer like that and you go, that's why. We should be playing ones next week.
It gives you hope. It brings you back.
Yeah.
It brings you back.
It's a cruel game.
Unfortunately, though, Swan Valley will be doing it in a different division because after that they got relegated.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Bassendean batted out to 342. Hopefully I've got that name right. I've heard of the joint. Swan Valley's pretty easy to say, but yeah, Jack took that specky at 6 for 266.
Yep.
So kind of just gave them a bit of a pop, even though they knew they were out of commission. They knew they were going to get relegated. But how many times do you reckon Jack went through that catch that night?
Oh, that's been probably replayed. He's probably still at the pub, like talking about it. And now that the video's gone viral of some sort, now that you've spoken about it, he's going to get it all again this weekend.
Deserves to.
Yeah.
It's a fair catch.
How good.
How good.
Love cricket.
Absolutely. Now, a reminder to find the survey link in the episode notes and tell us what you think. Anything.
Well,
any advice.
What we didn't touch on today is my hat.
Yes. Corduroy.
Yeah.
Is that how you say it?
Corduroy.
Corduroy?
Yeah.
Corduroy? No, that's illegal, isn't it? Corduroy. Get you in trouble with
I don't know
WADA.
what that is.
No. Corduroy.
Corduroy. Yeah. Well, we've been asking people to send in their hats. Well, Mitch and I may have got caught once again at the local tavern over the weekend.
You two are piss pots.
Yeah, well, we were
there
celebrating
every
a GWS win, and lo and behold, there we are having a beer, and out walks Caleb with 2 Terry Hills Cricket Club hats. So it is officially one of the cooler hats that I've owned, and hopefully I'm doing it justice.
Terry Hills Wolves, I can only imagine looking at that logo.
Well, he did come up and ask me about Willow Talk and if that was going to be mentioned last week, and I said yeah, and he said, well, what does it actually take for you to come down in August and have a game? And I said a hat. And the very next time I was at the pub, 2 hats appeared, so I'm now locked in for a fixture for Terry Hills.
Imagine in 3 years' time when this hopefully continues to grow, and thank you to all our loyal listeners who have helped it grow, but your entire diary is just made up of pledges to go and play cricket for a hat or a bottle of wine or a
I tell you what,
can of Night Watchman.
I genuinely always thought when I finished my professional career, which I thought was 5 years ago, by the way, was always going to go back play park cricket with my mates. Genuinely thought that. None of my mates still play. So now I'm offering myself around the country for hats, wine, beers, or Guadalajara in Mexico for tequila, just to come and have a game of park cricket. So keep inviting me. I'll come down eventually.
Well, it's good to know that the game hasn't taken away the love of the game from you.
It'll still be fun.
There you go. There you go. That's it for Willow Talk this episode. Catch you soon, Heels.
See ya.
Thanks for listening. Have a good one. Yeah, thanks for watching the Willow Talk podcast on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't have to miss an episode wherever you are. And while you're at it, check out these videos up here. They're mostly good.